with you.
I'm Patrick Dawson. I'm the production director for World of Warcraft. I've been at Blizzard for 15 years now, and have been on WoW for most of that time. Avid WoW player myself, and really excited to open up that dark portal again as we all step through it.
And my name's Brian Birmingham, and I'm the lead software engineer on WoW Classic. I've also been at Blizzard for 15 years. I started on World of Warcraft. I spent about 3 years on Hearthstone as well, and then came back to the World of Warcraft team to work on WoW Classic. And it has been a great joy to me to work on this team.
There's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
So earlier we announced, yay, Burning Crusade Classic is coming. But there's a lot more to it. Let's take a look at the features, because wow. I mean, wow, right? Wow. I was so excited by playing Draenei and Blood Elves. I played both, and I will say my heart's with Alliance. And I also took
I'm the boss.
on my Draenei Shaman. I wanted to corner the market. Just the whole notion of having items with sockets and just exploring that whole system. I'm also a bit of a systems nerd. So I completely lost my time for weeks in there.
The Burning Crusade, I remember being there back then. I mean, it was our first expansion ever. So all the new features was like this really cool moment of like, what's coming next, what's going to happen. And one of the things that was pretty impactful to the game was Horde having Paladins and Alliance having Shaman. I mean, as an avid PvPer myself, I remember going back and trying to fight Shaman. I was Alliance back then. And just not understanding that class at all, because my team didn't have it. So like I try to poly them and it'd be like grounding totem. I didn't know what that was. And it's just like, why are Shaman immune to everything? I don't understand.
That's not what you said.
Poly them?
No, I did.
What is you said? They're cheating.
I understood polymorph druids, but Shaman, why? Like now I started to understand Shaman a little bit better. We got some of their benefits. I actually got to see totems being placed down on my side for once, and got to see the frustration of dealing with Bubble Hearth on the other.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing raids, we were always jealous of the Alliance having Paladins for Blessing of Salvation. Like, people would be pulling aggro off me, and I'd be yelling at them, like, wait for 3 Sunders! And then Alliance just like, no, it's no problem, just go.
Yep. So, hey, I mean, we were upset raiding, like, Razor Gore without Earthbind. I mean, really even the playing field for both PvE and PvP, which was kind of cool. But there were a ton of new features and just abilities with this too. As we got to level 70 and got to experience new content and new things. I remember one of my first experiences with understanding what it meant for designed by Blizzard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was an engineer, right? I wasn't a designer. I was working on like the live ops team at the time, and I was playing my class, avid player of Mage, and I sent this long email to Tom Chilton saying like, hey, here's what Mage needs.
Dawson Manifesto.
So it was a well thought out forum post.
Funny thing is, the Mage is like the worst in TBC, like the whole expansion.
And I didn't even necessarily tie those two together. But he was like,
Warlocks, dude.
Invisibility. And just knowing that skill was coming along with some other new stuff for mages like the Molten Armor, the Ice Lances, was just really cool to see all this new stuff in Burning Crusade.
On the other side of that, I was really excited about Spell Reflect, because I was really frustrated getting polymorphed and being able to like reflect that back on the mage.
As a mage, I was not excited for you to get
I bet you weren't. And there were even some PvE encounters that had abilities that you could reflect back. So I remember that was really fun to kind of find ways to time that and use it as a defensive ability as well.
I was a hunter.
Mm-hmm. I'm a hunter now,
also a hunter.
actually. Yeah, I've switched.
But I remember just chasing Beastmaster and just DPS.
Yep.
That was it. That was the chase, yeah.
Talking about that
I
too,
remember
speak
you
of
create a
arenas,
macro
arena system.
that puts
That was
all
a
the
whole
abilities
world.
as
With
Beastmaster, and you
battlegrounds
just
and the
press
way they
one
worked
button
before,
and you
like,
top
the way
DPS.
matchmaking
That's
happened,
what I remember.
usually
Nah,
it was
Warlocks
pretty
were
PvP, so
Warlocks,
I would either
Rogues
get
with the
in there and
legendary.
Stop the enemy team who was just there to be casual, or even though like we were a good team, we weren't like the best of the best. So when we ended up going against one of those teams, it was just like, well, geez, we're just getting stopped now. This is tough. Arenas gave everyone an opportunity to play against equal-minded opponents.
Oh,
right?
arenas
So
were
if you
first
a little
introduced
bit
in
more
BC,
casual,
right?
You get the opportunity to play against people who weren't maybe so competitive. Or if you were like cutting edge, go for it. Like try to be the best of the best.
Remember all the
and
tournaments.
what was great about that is it really just spawned an esport. Like that wasn't.
Yeah.
We didn't design it for that. We just wanted
That's
people to have
where
fun.
that's where
But when we
the
noticed, like, hey,
competitive game,
everybody's playing this,
competitive thing
everybody's
started.
competing in this, people are watching it. We had to embrace that. We started featuring it at BlizzCons, and we've been doing it every year since.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I think one of my favorite things to recollect was the exciting zones that you would travel through. One of my favorite memories was actually in the first zone, Hellfire Peninsula, and it was adventuring around in Hellfire Peninsula, going around and doing all those quests, and always living in fear of the Fell Reaper.
That's the exciting
Because
zone
you'd be
that
out
he's
there
talking
collecting
about.
parts from like a broken Zeppelin, and
What's your favorite
and
zone?
fighting off your Hellbores, and then all of a sudden you see the screen start to shake.
I
and
like
you
Hellfire
stop,
actually. I don't know
stop,
what I actually kind of like it. It's weird.
and you're like, oh my god, I gotta run. He's right on top of me.
Sound still haunts my dreams.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Even in life, it's just feign death. Yeah. Like, it's easier to feign death.
Yeah, just get out of here. And then the payoff when you later go to Netherstorm and they give you the quest, they're like, could you get me a part from inside the Fell Reaver? You're gonna have to kill him. And you're like, that guy? Like that guy that used to terrorize me? And they're like, yeah, I think you could take him now. And that was such an exciting payoff to be able to like bring that full circle and go back and see him again.
For me, I snuck into beta. I got really lucky because I could see the construction sign for some of the zones, and of course I ignored it and went and explored. So I remember running through Blade's Edge and just seeing dragon carcasses and skeletons impaled in the environment.
I didn't like
and then
that zone.
Moving on to Netherstorm, I just
I
was
like
blown
Netherstorm,
away, even
kinda.
from Zangarmarsh all the way
Zangarmarsh is
through.
nice.
Everything felt like its own world, and just be able to go through that and just the delight of it and the epicness of it. And then you come up to Area 52. That's what I
I'm
love
going a
about
bit
WoW,
ahead,
is you
but
can
I
have
was just
epic
looking at the Diablo
storylines and
website.
still find lightness.
Apparently
in
you
it.
can
So
8 with
I just
8
loved
players.
it. I love it. I'm an explorer,
Cool.
so
You know, for me, I remember Burning Crusade really opened up a new gameplay type for me. I became a collector in Burning Crusade, right? And it kind of started with the Outdoor and Scryer rep. Because I got my outer rep all the way up, and then I was thinking about switching to Scryer, and people were like, "You're insane! Don't do that." And I was like, "I bet I can." Just to prove people wrong.
I love Aldo and
And I
Scryer.
did, and it was cool. It was really fun. But then I started doing other things. Like there were all these new like mounts and pets, and I went back and even got some of the older reps like Thorium Brotherhood and Winterspring. But then like things like Netherwing Ledge came out. The world just opened up for me in Burning Crusade to really start my collection.
of course we also had flying mounts, which I loved, and then decided to play with some friends on a PvP server.
That's the
and was
big
running
one.
around Hellfire, and Death from Above, which is likely just Pat.
Probably.
Yeah.
You were flying around harassing people, Pat?
I was getting a lot of honorable kills.
BC might actually be one of my favorite
that's just a quick look
expansions.
at some of our memories for Burning
I don't know.
Crusade, and that was 13 years ago. So that code
I'm hyped,
has been
man.
hanging around for 13 years. And we're not just doing a save as Burning Crusade Classic.
Oh no, it's a lot harder than that.
Why are they
14
Let's
changing?
years
get
ago?
into some of those details.
So one of the challenges has been that we don't actually want to ship on the old code, and the reason for that is because it's got a lot of bugs and difficulties with the architecture that we don't want to have to deal with. But we do want that old data, and we talked about this when we did the original launch of Classic. Was how the data is really the thing that describes how the game is supposed to be played and what things are supposed to happen in it. And so we want to bring that old data. And we
So
wanna
that
run
meant they
it on
had lots
modern
of
code,
bugs.
the same as we did for Classic. And there's like 750,000 rows of data that we have to go through and convert from their old formats to their new formats. And fortunately, we have really talented engineers, and we run automated scripts that go through this.
The
But even after
interns
we run
do
these
it.
scripts, we have to compare them with with how it used to behave and make sure that we've actually done the conversion correctly. And then there's even some things that are making it more difficult this time, like the fact that we've made a couple of minor changes or bug fixes in the Classic data. And we want to make sure that we keep those as we're going into Burning Crusade. So we have to merge those changes with the changes that happened with the Burning Crusade originally, and make sure that we have a coherent set of changes that make sense to bring us from Classic into the
Yeah.
Burning Crusade.
There's an enormous amount of time spent looking at, okay, this is how it came out now. We have a reference client
Yeah.
that is the original.
That's right. We do use the old code for that. So like we still have it. We just don't want to ship on that anymore. But we have like the old code with the old data, knows exactly how it's supposed to behave. So those things work together, and we can bring that up internally and take a look at it and say like, okay, this is how it was back then. This is exactly what it used to look like.
So this is
And
to
we
the
do
people who
sometimes
say
find
that
things
it's not the same.
are
They're
bugs
saying
that
that they
still
have
need
an old
fixed.
client
A lot of times
as a
people tell us
backup.
like, oh, this thing
That's
is not
on
a bug,
purpose.
This is actually the intended behavior,
what they're saying.
We don't really remember right. There's a tendency to want to chase your own memory. Like, I remember it being like this. And it's like, no, it's not always exactly the way you remember it. Everybody has that kind of human failing, even us. And so a lot of times we'll have an argument about, I remember it this way. Well, I remember it this way. Let's go and check. We can look.
Well, another reason to ship on the new code is really just the years of stability, improvements, and the fact that the world didn't look the same back in 2007 as it does today. Like,
That's true.
There wasn't cloud architecture at that point. I remember I had the privilege of being on the live ops team where I got to see what all the servers looked like and how it was all architected.
But it's one client,
and to
isn't
pull
it,
back
so,
the curtain on this a bit, the way it was is everything was its
What
own,
version it is as well.
like server, right? Like they didn't really talk to each other very well. So each realm had 11 blades on it, and these blades were just bare metal blades, and like one blade was for Azeroth, one blade was for Kalimdor, one was for Outland, and then we had some for instances. And back then what would happen without cloud is you would try to request resources, and maybe a lot of people were running dungeons, and so it would give you back things like transfer aborted, instance not found. Oh boy, like we don't want to go back to those days. So now we can take advantage of things like the cloud and not have those resource issues. So shipping on this new code is a big improvement.
I'm hyped, man.
Yeah, and so we're weaving all these threads together. We did finally get a build for Burning Crusade Classic. Super
Part
excited.
of the gaming experience, all those resource issues.
The team gets together, we're
What if I
preparing
want
for a
my loading
playtest,
screen?
and we go to create our characters, and we see this blood elf who, he remembers the sun well. He forgot his pants.
What?
So everything didn't work the first time?
Mamma mia!
I know.
Yeah, I did mention we had to go through
Sabotage.
and check for problems in those conversion scripts. And so yeah, sure enough, what's going
think that
on
was on
here is
purpose.
that this guy thinks he's dressed, but he isn't, and you can see why he thinks he's dressed if you
Does
look
that
down.
happen to you a lot?
Only in my high school days.
You can see if you look at his calves, you can see that he's got
Happens to Mad
they're
Skills.
flared out because he thinks he's wearing boots. And the way the system works is
I'm not wearing pants
we
right
first
now.
set the geometry up for all the items that you're supposed to be wearing,
gonna show.
and then we layer on various images that we call textures, and we'd use those to build up a
jeez.
single composite texture that's then wrapped around the geometry. But
Are
of
you wearing
course, in
boots
this
under your
case, when
skin
we
as
were
well?
layering them on, none of the textures were assigned. So it just started with his, naked body, and then was going to go layer on textures and didn't find any. So it thinks he's dressed, and so it's removed the underwear because it thinks it's put clothes on top. But there aren't anything there. They're all just completely transparent. So it's almost like the
Why do they
Emperor's New
keep coming
Clothes.
back
He's
to
wearing
it?
invisible clothes. Only in this case, that's really what's happening.
It's crazy. And then, of course, I wanted to try Draenei because that's where my heart lies. I'm an Alliance girl. And this Draenei
But does
looks
it
to be
intimidate you?
heads above the rest.
That's not the Exodar.
Imaginary
Yeah.
No,
character.
definitely
It's
not.
done Moro, right?
It is, and that's exactly the problem. It looks like the Draenei's too tall, but the real problem is that we're in the wrong place. And so, yeah, when you go to the Dunmorrow character select screen, of course, the camera is positioned for much shorter races like gnomes and dwarves, and so it's about knee high on a Draenei.
This is like,
And then
guys, we
water.
have to ship the product, but
Really,
it's not
Brian,
ready,
we
just
have
ship
water
it.
and Hellfire.
Yeah, so
This is going through the
it
bugs.
turns out that Outland
Yeah,
has
I
a
mean,
funny, unique
this is
feature that it
nothing
doesn't
new.
have any oceans because the water just all falls off the edges and goes out into space or something like that. I'm not sure how that works.
It's
in,
nothing,
in the
I don't
game
know why they're
universe,
showing all these
but-
bugs. It's
but
nothing to be proud of.
There's no ocean there, but we
kinda
had
showing
accidentally
how
flagged
bad
it to
they were.
generate ocean, so we had to flooding the entire world with an ocean until we found that and turned it back off.
So through all of these processes, yes, we're obviously we're fixing what is broken, but also we thought it was a good time to start enacting what we call #some changes to gameplay
still remain
and how
unfixed.
things should work.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like Classic,
They wanna
our
fix
guiding
stuff.
principle
I'm all
is
for
to
this.
fix
I'm
and
all
also
for
provide
fixing the
as
bugs,
true
man.
life, authentic experience.
Let's
of Classic
go.
that we possibly could for the community, and we accomplished that. What was interesting to me is to see this vibrant community that embraced it and then said, hey,
99 little bugs, 99
but we're
little
not
bugs.
exactly the same as we were.
6 one
15
around,
years
5 one
ago,
around,
right? And they're right. Like
128
the
little bugs.
times have changed. The world has changed, and so some of those things that maybe were out there that were not great and were warts back in the day is not something that we would want to ship again. Like something that feels a little buggy or wrong or incorrect. So the idea behind this is let's provide what the Burning Crusade experience was without those warts.
And this really, I think, illustrates the difference is spell batching. we actually had a lot of requests originally for spell batching in that kind of no changes charge, where they said, hey, I remember when I used to be able to have 2 mages polymorph one another, and they would both end up
what it's
polymorphed.
like?
And that's cute and fun, and I kind of like that. And
This
so we
is
said, okay, well, we can put that back
really
in.
exciting,
But
honestly.
the system that causes that is, of course, that the spells are batched up and processed in these giant batches. But over the last 2 years, people realized that what that comes with is about a half a second of kind of built-in latency, where you push a button and it doesn't actually take effect for that half a second while it's waiting to queue up the other ones to go with it. And people were starting to find that frustrating. I talked to a lot of people who said they were excited about it when it first came out with Classic, but after they've been playing with it for 2 years, they're really ready to see it go.
Exactly, man. There's so many people who were like, no changes.
That's definitely great.
And it
'cause I
just
remember,
comes like,
every 2 weeks.
why would you not fix a massive bug?
And it was because of stuff like this, right? Like if you vanish at the same time a fireball's hitting you, it's gonna pop you out, right?
Exactly.
Like, and so we were trying to do all these hacky solutions to it, but the
People
real
are probably
answer
gonna
is
hate this, you know
don't
that.
spell batch.
Yeah. Do you know what they're
But we
talking
didn't have
about?
the
They're
ability
talking
to
about all
trigger
of
that, so glad we're doing
they're talking about all the
another one that I can think
game back in
of
the
is
past. But look,
just how
we're
the rating
gonna
communities
release
right?
the
Like,
exactly same
things were very
game, but
different,
we're gonna build it properly
back
now.
in 2004,
10 years
2005 timelines compared to today. So
And then people say
no. The rating
That's the
community
worst
knows exactly what's going on,
And you
they
have
want a
to buy it
challenge. They
again.
want more of a challenge. So rather than always giving them like the last version of the boss, the final form of the boss, which maybe is been hit with a few nerfs, let's not do that anymore. Let's give them a more challenging version of the boss. I'll give you an example of like Muru, right, where the initial version of that boss had a lot of spell pushback. And so like that made it really tough to bring casting classes to that fight. We did fix that pretty quickly and change the fight to allow for that. Now that's a change we probably would incorporate in this, right? Like we don't want people to feel excluded or not part of being able to do a fight like that. But then probably a month or so after that, we nerfed Mover's health. That doesn't need to happen. Let's just keep it in the hard form. We can evaluate any changes we need to make after that. But yeah, it won't just be like, hey, final form, we're not even going to look at it. Let's call it a day. So.
Yeah. So how did your
Harder
mage
bosses,
handle the
nice.
pushback?
I just was
It
sad.
Feels
the bench.
personal. Yeah.
No, I was the raid leader, so I got to choose who went. But
The one mage allowed
This
to
is
go.
cool. I like everything they're saying so far.
honestly, that's one of my favorite fights ever in World of Warcraft. That was a really, really fun fight.
That's awesome. Another change that we're talking about making is along the lines of that PvP balance and faction balance is, obviously with Burning Crusade, Paladins are introduced to the Horde and Shamans are introduced to the Alliance, and that was intended to be a balancing of the factions and let's, make them even. And then they wanted to kind of keep a little bit of flavor of that faction identity, so they kept Seal of Blood on the Horde and Seal of Vengeance on the Alliance. It was intended to be equivalent power abilities that were just slightly different in flavor, but in retrospect, Seal of Blood was just so much better. And so one of the changes that we are going to make is we are going to give the opposite faction's seal to the other faction, but we're going to do that at max level. So we keep just a little bit of that faction identity, where Horde will get Seal of Blood at level 64 on schedule, and then get Seal of Vengeance at level 70. And similarly, Alliance will get Seal of Vengeance at level 64, and then their equivalent, Seal of the Martyr, at level 70. Another thing we want to talk about is arena teams. When it first came out in
5
in
versus
Crusade,
5, dude.
the arena team system only let you have the same number of players on your team that was the size of the bracket it was
Find
for.
two more friends.
So, for example, a 3v3 team could only have 3 players on the team. So if someone was like sick or unavailable one night, you couldn't play. And that felt really frustrating. So we're definitely going to go with like the last version of that, where you could have twice the size of the bracket on your team roster, so that you had alternates you could swap in and out. And then that way, as long as anybody had participated in, I think, 30% of the matches, then they got the full credit for the week of participation.
So when we did personal ratings versus team ratings?
I think that came later, and we're also considering whether or not we want to do something with that as
people
well.
waiting on benches
Because
for a
another
long
thing that
time.
was problematic about arenas was the way that the ELO system was so inflationary. And so we're talking about whether or not we want to move forward with converting
This is
that
gonna
to
be
something
so
more like the
cool,
modern
man.
MMR
Arena
system,
is
so
gonna
that it
be
isn't
banger,
as
dude.
punishing
I'm
to people
telling you.
in terms of like waiting hours for a match at the highest levels and things like that.
And another change, we're going to give players
as well just
access
stop
to
buying the
Blood
new
Elf and Draenei
expansions
early,
and
so that
just buy
before we
the
actually
classics
open the
and
dark
progress through
portals,
them.
you'll have a chance to
You're gonna have a
level
much
those
better
up.
game
That's
experience.
definitely not something we did originally.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend who was really frustrated that the rest of us were all running around in Outland, and he was like, I'm still back in
come
Outland.
on.
I don't wanna
Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah.
When can I play with you guys? So yeah, I'm really glad we're doing that.
Yeah.
Doing
What they calling the Burning Crusade
Yes.
now,
That's
the
the plan.
classic.
Is,
Cool.
yeah, pre-patch will come out and you'll be able to go start your blood.
Oh, you
season
mean
now.
the Burning
And
Crusade?
then
Okay. I thought you meant.
So we've got some phases happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the content phases that we got
what's
coming
gonna
are
happen?
Oh wait,
exciting.
content phases,
We're
right?
going to start with Karazhan and Gruul's Lair and Magtheridon's Lair. And we want to start with just that released because we found with Classic that people really enjoy that kind of gear progression. And that's where all the tier 4 gear is with those raids. And we want people to have an opportunity to level up, catch up to their friends, and all kind of go through these things together. So as we unlock each chapter, we want to make sure everybody's had enough time to be part of that chapter. And the next chapter after that will be Phase 2, which will be Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep.
Yeah.
Then next we move on to Phase 3, which is Hyjal and the Black Temple. And the reason that's a change is, of course, originally Hyjal was available.
I don't
from
like
the launch of
Hyjal.
Burning Crusade. Nobody could really get into it because of the
CBA
way the attunements work. So we'll unlock that as a later chapter alongside Black Temple. And then that'll go with Arena
Attunements.
Season 2 at that point. And then Arena Season 3 will come out alongside Zulaman with a little bit of catch-up gear for anybody who's taken that long to catch up. It's another smaller instance, a 10-man.
Oh, I love
And then
Zulaman.
finally, Phase 5 will be Sunwell and Arena Season 4.
It's been a very busy year. Yeah.
I am so nostalgic of
It's
this.
an expansion with a lot in it. A lot in it.
And so we spent a lot of time talking about Burning Crusade Classic and Burning Crusade, which is exciting. We're very excited about it, but there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot coming, and we want to walk through how this is going to materialize.
Well, yeah, really the question is, we have a diverse player base where people have a lot of different wants and needs. And how do we get there? How do we get to the Burning Crusade? Well, the first group of people that we wanted to make sure that we were serving well is those people who do want to go to the Burning Crusade. We feel that most of the community is interested in this. They're going to want to do this. We want to make it simple and easy for them. So how are we going to do that?
As we said earlier, you're going to be able to make a choice. So we'll talk about and explore these choices in some detail, and I'll give you some examples. So to start with the current servers you're on now, Classic Live servers, are going to become what we're calling progression servers. And what that means is the servers that are live now will always unlock any expansion we release. So when we get to our patch day, you're going to be presented with a choice. Do you want to continue on into the Burning Crusade, or do you want to move to Classic? So in that space, you're going to do that for every single character. So for my example, I'm on Warm Rest Accord. So I've got a level 60. I am definitely taking that on through to Burning Crusade. But I've got a couple of mid-levels that I know I want to move with my friends. Those are characters I level with my friends in Classic.
Can you
I wanna
change
continue
later
that
on?
journey with them. We want to make it as easy and seamless as possible to just get right into Burning Crusade. But there are options.
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear that. I know there's a lot of my friends, for example, who maybe didn't really play Classic when it first came out, right? And so now they're behind, and they're interested in playing the Burning Crusade. This was, for a lot of people, their favorite
me.
expansion that we've done.
That's me. That's
and
me.
we want to make sure that those people are served too. And one of the ways we could do that is provide a boost to people who are interested in coming back that maybe aren't interested in doing the classic WoW experience, but really want to hop right into Outland as quickly as possible.
Money, money, money.
The team, we spent quite a bit of time discussing it because we want to make sure we respect the time of the people that have been playing Classic for 2 years. But also, we want people to be able to enjoy Burning Crusade if they loved it the first time and maybe miss Classic. So we are going to offer a level 58 boost for purchase, but it does come with some restrictions. So it's going to be 1 per account. It's not going to be usable on Blood Elf or Draenei. It'll have some dungeon blues. It'll have level 40 mount skill, no professions. It's the basics, basically your Outland starting kit.
That's cool. That's a really great way to jump into the
I'm
game.
probably gonna do
I like
that
that.
because I don't have a max level
I know a lot
classic
of people came
character.
back to play WoW Classic.
I would
and that's all
probably do
they-
that.
That's all they ever wanted. They're like, you know what, Burning Crusade, that's awesome. I'm sure some people are going to love that. But for me, I came back for WoW Classic. What do they get to do? What's their options?
Yeah, that was
Well, you
really
can't be
important for us too.
Bell
So
or Trana.
we had all sat down and discussed like how we should frame this. So when we get to our patch day, which is prior to the Dark Portal opening, when I said before, like I'll go back to my example for Worm Rest, we will be launching Classic Era Realms at the same time as we do our patch, and you will have that choice. So when you make the choice to go to Burning Crusade Classic, Or you make the choice, like on my example, my level 40 druid, I want to move that character to Classic Era. And what Classic Era means is that those particular servers are going to stay in that era forever. So that is going to remain classic till the end of time. It's never going to unlock expansions. You'll be able to make that choice for every single character. Do you go on to Burning Crusade, or do you choose to go to Classic Era? Let's say, you know, you're behind the times a little bit. You'll still be able to have that choice. We haven't locked it to a time window. You're not going to miss the boat to Era.
The choice sounds awesome, and choice in WoW is something that's meaningful. It's always been meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that's important when we look at the community, that you're going to choose to go to the Burning Crusade or you're going to choose to go to Classic. You know, some people may not be comfortable with that choice. And while we think that that choice is important, we also recognize that there are folks that are going to want to play both, right? Like, yeah, see,
Right here.
maybe you have some stuff left to do in Classic that you wanted, and you want to keep that character in Classic, but you also are interested, that same character wants to raid with your friends.
That's exactly
TBC. So what does that look like? How do we make that happen?
So we're going to actually offer a paid service to let you make a copy of your character. And I know, like, a copy is a big deal. So like you said, like, this is something we don't want to make just an automatic choice for everybody.
Oh,
but I know
boy.
that for me, it really is going to be like that pull to go to both places. So I want to be able to say, like, you know what, I'm willing to pay some money for this. I want a copy of my character that lives in Classic Era forever, while I also go to Burning Crusade with that with that character.
Everyone's
And
gonna
that way
do that.
I can stay with my friends who are really excited to go to Karazhan. I'm
Everyone's
excited to
gonna do
I want
that.
to see my hunter go through Karazhan. But if I'm missing like a couple pieces of my tier 3 set from Naxxramas, I still have an opportunity to go find a new guild there and go through Naxxramas again until I finish that set.
We're going to be spending a lot of time communicating these details. So
Yeah.
even as much detail as we're giving now is
How
very
much?
high level. There's going
How
to be a lot
much?
more detail to come. So keep an ear out. But with that said, so Pat, when's all this happening?
Oh, soon.
Yay!
So yeah, this is something that, you know, is important to get. People are still playing through Naxxramas. We want to make sure that they have enough time to do that. But what we are looking at, this will be happening in 2021. For sure, we are committed to doing that. And what we're looking at is starting the beta rather soon. So hopefully that beta will go up and we'll get that running. The community can come
Think
and
so?
participate, help us out. We'll start to hear some feedback on the things we've talked about today. If there's any adjustments we need to make, we want to make sure we have a long enough beta period for that to happen. And then we'll get that out to the players so you can all enter the dark portal.
Yay!
Yeah, it's exciting.
So any final words?
Yeah, I just talked about the beta, and you know, I will say just to the community, you all have
guy on
been
the right
so
legit
instrumental in
seems
making
very
Classic
happy.
the success that it has been, and you'll be equally instrumental in making the Burning Crusade a
about
tremendous
buying your
success
own.
also. So please get in that beta, play, give us your feedback. We want to hear all about it. So enjoy, welcome, and let's have some fun.
Yay!
Yeah, and it's been the highlight of my professional career to work on WoW Classic and have the support and love of this community. It is really special to me, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with all of you in the Burning Crusade.
Yeah, and for me,
He's really excited.
I've been playing Classic
you,
since
look
it
at
launched. And I wasn't working at Blizzard then, and it's changed my life, obviously. So from me and the entire WoW team, we want to thank you for bringing Azeroth to life for us. So we will definitely be seeing you in game in
That
whatever
sounds
flavor
exciting.
you choose. And until then,
Are you gonna stay on the same
stay
channel?
classic.
Yeah, this sounds. What do you think about the thing? Dude, the hashtag no changes, some changes. I think that sounds really cool. Fixing the big bugs. They even highlighted the big bugs that they want to fix. That's what they showed that whole segment where they were like showing bugs. It's basically saying that, hey guys, these things need to be fixed.